International organizations are warning that the war and the blockade will worsen food insecurity across the globe. A third of the fertilizers used in the world come from Gulf countries and Iran. To discuss this further, I can welcome now Shirli Sitbon from our news desk. So I understand, Shirley, you have some figures you're going to walk us through about why we should be concerned?
Yeah, exactly. Figures, maps. So yes, about a third of the fertilizers used in the world come from that region, from Gulf states, from Iran. Iran actually is the fourth largest producer and exporter of urea, which is the most widely used nitrogen fertilizer. And these images, this map, shows with these various dots sites where fertilizers are being produced and exported across the world. And currently, actually, they can't be exported because the strait is blocked. Very few ships go through it. We've talked about this again and again. And this is a problem not because of just of the proportion and the numbers of fertilizers usually exported from that area, but also even when fertilizers are made elsewhere, they use gas, and gas also comes, largely from that area of the world. And this means, well, that there are going to be maybe shortages, there may be inflation to come, it's highly likely, and also food uncertainty. We know that all these fertilizers have allowed in the past 50 years to increase so much yield across the world and help so many people lessen food insecurity. Well, now we're seeing this in reverse, and there's a great concern to see things getting worse. For example, the IMF said that, well, in sub-Saharan Africa, there could be 20 million people pushed towards hunger, according to that organization. Various figures of the sort, so yes, a lot of concern.
Now, Shirley, I understand that some countries are more at risk than others. Which ones are they, and why is that?
Well, it really depends. We can see a map showing countries most largely affected. And, some countries produce, for example, in Europe, we're not directly affected because we don't import fertilizers from Gulf states. But still, when there's less of something, then prices globally increase. So yes, fertilizers, there have been less of them in Europe, and their prices are increasing, and this continues. But other countries, for example, have been exporting a lot of farming goods, a lot of crops. For example, Australia, and we can see various areas. India uses a lot of fertilizers from Gulf states, Pakistan also largely. But we're also thinking about countries, for example, like Sudan. Almost half, even actually more than half of the fertilizers that Sudanese farmers use come from Gulf states. And that's a major problem because they're already facing not only food insecurity, but also hunger and famine in some areas of the country. So they need to find solutions fast. And this also comes as we know that aid is not coming in as much as it used to. Various countries, the U.S., also here in Europe, they've cut down aid to countries which are suffering from food insecurity.
Now, Shirley, as you mentioned, decisions need to be taken fast. We're heading into spring. So what options do farmers have at this point?
Yes, well, it really depends where we are. They need to act fast because, everything's happening now in this season. And what they're doing globally is that they're shifting away from everything from crops that need a lot of fertilizers. So they're shifting away. For example, they're dropping rice, they're dropping corn, they're turning towards sunflowers, they're turning towards barley. Really thinking this very fast because they know that the fertilizers are not coming. So we see here in France, for example, farmers are saying it's just too expensive to grow corn now with the price of fertilizers, the price of fuel. So they're just turning to sunflower, turning to soybeans in other areas, for example, in the U.S., shifting away from cotton as well. So yes, a lot of decisions have to be made very fast, and also a lot of deals. We've been seeing countries like Australia trying to, reach deals with countries that sell fertilizers and trying to reach that deal to get the fertilizers to them and not to the competition. So a lot of competing and battling to get those fertilizers in weeks to come.
Shirley, thank you so much for your analysis there. That's Shirli Sitbon from our news desk.